Hey, welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. Either way, I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some cozy mobile games that you might want to check out. Now, as a quick disclaimer, I'm not a mobile gamer. I generally don't enjoy the meta of mobile games. However, I've gotten more than a few requests for videos covering mobile games, so I thought I'd give it a shot. But I just think it's important to go into this knowing that mobile games are very much not designed for my brain, so if I say anything that you disagree with, just know I'm not intending to belittle you or anything like that. These are simply my experiences with these games. So, without any further delay, let's get into the video. Cats and Soup is an interesting title. I would describe it as a cozy soup production idle game. Basically what I mean by that is you just kind of sit there waiting for your cats to make different soup recipes and collect the money when those soups are done being made. If that doesn't sound particularly involved, that's because it isn't. It's clearly designed around maybe 5-minute gameplay sessions max. When you log on for the day, you get bombarded with different collectibles and things to buy and upgrades. So you go about doing that for the majority of the playtime. Then, after you've exhausted all of those things that have built up in the background, you just kind of sit there and sell soup every once in a while. It's clear that the intended playstyle is to jump on every once in a while for a little bit of time, collect everything, and maybe make some upgrades, and then get back to your day-to-day tasks in the real world. And perhaps that shouldn't surprise me. That's what a lot of mobile games offer. Quick and simple play sessions which are mindless enough to complete and then move on from. And I think that makes a lot of sense for mobile platforms like the phone. It's not a dedicated mobile console like the Game Boy, so you're not really making a game for the purposeful gamer. You're making a game for someone who wants to kill some free time and just kind of chill out. And for that, I think this kind of design makes sense, and I can't really fault them too heavily for that. That would be like saying that I don't like RPGs, or that I think they shouldn't be designed for hours of endless play just because I don't like to play that way. So I don't take issue with the simplicity and kind of idle nature of the game. Something I do take issue with, and I suspect this will be a reoccurring issue throughout this video, is the monetization schemes included. Now, to be clear, I take no issue with them monetizing their game. It takes real work to make and maintain a game, no matter how small. People need to be paid. And the reality is that most people aren't going to be willing to pay up front for a mobile game. That's just not what people have been conditioned to expect. So again, I have zero issue with them monetizing their game. However, as seems to be a common theme with mobile games, the ways they go about doing it are intrusive and are woven into the game design itself in ways that, at least to me, really ruin the experience. Like I said, I don't mind the simple and idle nature of the game. In fact, I think it makes sense even. However, that reading is a bit harder to defend when the game gives you every opportunity to extend that gameplay period if you're willing to pay. Paying for things like cosmetics is one thing. I don't love it, but I can live without cosmetics, and if the upsell tactics aren't too predatory towards people who might be easier to take advantage of, I think that's a relatively fine way to monetize a game. But making me pay money, not just a one-time purchase, mind you, but endless ongoing purchases just to play the actual game, the way it feels like it was actually designed to be played, that just feels scummy. Now, earlier, I said the game is designed to be played in short stints. However, that's literally only if you don't pay anything. If you're willing to continually pay, then you get a bunch of other features and cosmetics which make the game last longer and allow you to actually engage on a deeper level with the mechanics. For a cozy game about cute little cats making soup, when there's really no mini-game mechanics around making the soup, much of the enjoyment comes from making a cute little scene and watching your adorable cats run around and do different tasks. And for that, it's great, except, again, unless you want your cats to either be running around naked or just be wearing the exact same outfit, you're going to need to shell out some money. And it's such a shame, too, because the art is really cute, and I would love to spend time in this game. The animations are great, the cats all have adorable little personalities, albeit not particularly varied, but I love watching them run from place to place and act like little humans. It's adorable. You can name them and dress them up. The idea is great. I just can't quite get past the monetization. But that's just me personally. I suspect if you're watching this video and you clicked on this thumbnail and title, you may be a bit more used to and accommodating of the monetization practices that mobile games use. And if that's the case, then I think this is a really great offering. It's cute and it's fun to watch everyone doing their own little things. Overall, I enjoy the idea of the game a lot. And even though the monetization stuff does kind of bother me, they also aren't super predatory. Like, there aren't any real gambling mechanics. What you see is what you get, and they're pretty upfront. And you don't need to buy anything to play the game. You can totally have a good time without it. I would just say that it's a bit of a cut-down experience. So if that sounds interesting to you, go check it out. You probably won't be disappointed. Now, on to our next game. Cat's Mansion is a game about taking care of an old mansion that your grandma just acquired and is now putting you in charge of. This one is different than all our other games on this list in that it's not really about decorating. It's more of a matching/crafting game, and I think the mechanics they have here for that crafting are actually rather unique and pretty cool. Now bear in mind, like I said, I'm not a mobile gamer, so it's very possible this is a super common subtype of game mechanic, but as far as I've seen, it's pretty unique, especially so on this list. So basically, you have this little grid with a bunch of little objects on it. You have these generators, which when clicked, generate an object. You then combine that object with another object of the same type and create the next level of object. The reason that you're doing this is to fulfill orders that you get at the top of your screen. You get objects randomly and just combine away until you get the one that you need. You then collect on the order. And after getting some money, you can then buy some pre-designed stuff for the mansion. That's really it. The mechanics are quite simple and honestly pretty satisfying. I think the feedback is well done, and the game is simple enough to work really well as just something you whip out on the bus station waiting for your ride for a few minutes. However, my issue comes in the energy mechanic. Now, this is something I remember quite well from my mobile gaming days back in middle school. Basically, if you're not familiar, it's this arbitrary limit the devs put on your playtime. You get a certain amount of energy when you open the game every day, and once it's gone, you can't interact with the main mechanic of the game until it recharges, usually rather slowly. This is a mechanic I had hoped we'd moved past at this point. I can somewhat understand the desire to put it in the game. For one, with a game this simple, you don't want your users spending a ton of time in the game nonstop because they'll inevitably get tired of it after like maybe an hour. But the other reason, which is much more motivating to a publisher, is the fact that you can charge for more time in the game. Now, yes, this game is free and they do need to monetize it, and again, I have no problem with that. But this is just a mechanic I really hate. Sure, it's not strictly speaking horrible. They aren't tricking you into spending money or making you buy something with no knowledge of what it actually is, like loot boxes, but what they are doing is artificially driving up your investment in the game. See, if you start the game and burn through your energy for the day, you're going to do one of two things. Either you're just going to close the app and do something else, or you're going to buy more energy and in turn feel like you need to spend more time in the game because, I mean, come on, you just spent $4 on that energy. You don't want to just leave it there. Now, this simple and sure kind of fun gameplay has monetary value to your brain, so you're going to want to continue to invest in it. Now, I'm no psychologist, so I could be totally off with this, but I don't know, it just feels yucky to me when mobile games do this. I know the mobile game sector is a really difficult one to break out in, and I have sympathy for that, but I struggle to recommend a game which uses this, in my opinion, archaic business tactic. However, that being said, the game itself is actually pretty fun to play, and that really is my only issue with it. I think it's kind of fun to combine the different objects to figure out what makes what, and the art style is pretty cute, and the dialogue is pretty endearing. If the whole energy thing doesn't bother you, then I would say give this a shot. And that goes for most of these games. I mean, they're all free, and none of them require you to spend money. So if the usual mobile game stuff doesn't bother you, I would say this is a good one to give a shot. It's cute, and it's pretty fun, and you don't need to buy anything to engage with it. Another game that you don't need to buy anything to engage with is our next title. Pocket Love is a cute little game about moving into a new apartment with your SO. The art style is really cute and the characters are these little chibi guys. Everything's really very cutesy, kind of covered in this pastel hand-drawn style. You start the game off with the customization screen where you choose from a few different looks to start the game, both for you and your SO, and you get to pick between a dog and a cat, each of which have 3 different looks that you can choose from. One of the really cool things about the game is evident right up front. You can choose to be in any kind of relationship you want, and a lot of their marketing and copy show same-sex couples, so that's really cool. It's very much a queer-friendly game, which we always love to see. As for the gameplay itself, much like the other games on this list, it's a pretty idle-focused game. Most of the game centers around waiting for things to happen so you can get some money and buy new things for your apartment, and in turn increase your romance score with your partner. And this is where I'm going to have a little tiny itsy-bitsy bit of criticism about this game. While I love the idea of centering a game around moving in together, I think the way that it's integrated with the romance system feels a bit yucky. Though this really isn't a huge point for me. While most of the game does center around buying things to make your relationship better, they do let you go out on little dates and stuff, so I don't think it's an actual problem. I just would have liked to have a bit more to do. That's not to say there's nothing, though. There are these little mini-games that you can play which give you money if you win, and in general, money isn't that hard to come by in this game. It's pretty easy to rack up coins, and those are used to buy stuff from the store, and so it's pretty easy to increase your stash. Plus, they have these little themed room bundles which give you a free item every once in a while, so there's not much of a shortage in terms of stuff. The dollars, though, those are harder to get. I'm not entirely certain what it is that earns you dollars other than watching ads, but in general, I don't love the experience of having to sit through ads when I'm playing a game. I like that they don't make you by just shoving one in every once in a while. You do have to actively choose to watch one. And maybe it's just me, but I find it really takes me out of the already pretty uninvested state of mind when I'm playing a mobile game. But overall, I think the game is really cute. It's not egregious with microtransactions, and there isn't any of the usual mobile game sleaze that I'm used to seeing in ads for mobile games. It's kind of just a chill, cute little decorating/dating sim. But perhaps you fancy something a bit more fantasy than pseudo-Japanese coffee shop vibes. Well, this next game might be for you. Fairy Village is actually very similar to our last game. It's a game centered around decorating little fairy houses. You join the game with some other fairies looking for a place to set up your new village. After finding an old abandoned house, your troop decides you'll put down there and start building your village. So again, much like the other games on this list, you're mostly sitting around waiting for quick mindless tasks to either become available or for little things to pop up which you can then click on to make some money. In this game, the latter is themed around building your little bestiary. So whenever a new little guy pops up and you click on them, you get some money and they get added to your bestiary. Again, it's very similar mechanically to most of the other games on this list. The prevailing mechanic in cozy mobile game design seems to be this: click a few times and wait 5 minutes to an hour for something to complete. Perhaps I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but I'm pretty confident that no matter how it's done, this mechanic just isn't for me. And if I do another mobile games video, I'll be sure to try and find some games that explore the medium a bit further than cute clothes and the usual monetization. But speaking of cute clothes, that's something I really like about this game. And not just the clothes, the overall vibe has a really great storybook feel, and they do a really great job with all the background and foreground elements. I really love the art in this game. It's a bit more maximalist than Pocket Love or Cat's Mansion, and I love it for that. These are certainly little houses I would be right at home in. Oh, and that's another thing. They allow you to make more than one house. Whereas in Pocket Love, you expand your house with rooms, in Fairy Village, you expand your village with, well, obviously houses. The only thing I don't love about that is because it's a mobile game, of course they make you wait a ridiculously long amount of time for construction to finish. Now, I think in this game it's kinda okay because they don't actually give you the ability to speed it up with real money, so I think that's just a way to incentivize you to leave for a bit and come back the next day rather than a way to extort you for your money. However, that kind of mechanic doesn't really jive with me personally. I much prefer to be able to set the pace of the game myself. It's not a great feeling to me to be playing a game and just have to put it down because I ran out of things to do. That's like a really lame feeling. Don't get me wrong, I usually only play games in like 1 or maybe 2 hour stints, so I'm by no means an endurance gamer who expects a game to be able to keep me engaged for like 20-hour sessions every day of the week or something, but the intended session time on these games is far too short for my personal preference. All in all though, I really like the vibe and art style of this game. In general, I think if you're a mobile gamer and you're looking for a more whimsical, cozy game to dip your toes into, this is going to be a really great time for you. The art is great and the vibes are exactly what I would want, and they don't really jump down your throat too much with the microtransactions. If you've heard all my criticisms about this game and the others on this list and still think it sounds good, I would highly recommend it. It really is a pretty good time. But now for a game that's also a pretty good time. I didn't write a segue for this part. Tsuki Odyssey. I think that's how you say it. Tsuki Odyssey is one that I've seen a lot of recommendations for. It's another decorating-focused life sim-esque kind of deal. You play the titular Tsuki, and after coming home to find your home totally emptied by that darn raccoon, you get to earning the money to replace everything. You do this by visiting your carrot patch every so often to harvest carrots. These serve as money, and you use them to buy all the furniture that you need in your house. And this is immediately one of my favorite parts of the game, the furniture designs, not the harvesting. Everything I've seen so far in the game is something I would want in my house. It's all like nature themed with a heavy emphasis on mushrooms and like moss logs. It's amazing. And it doesn't stop there either. The whole aesthetic of the game is amazing. This is, more than any other game on this list, a world I would want to dive right into. All the little shops are adorable and the characters are full of personality. Things like the fishing pond and carrot patch are like peak cottagecore vibes, and the art style itself is impeccable. If I were to complain about one thing, it would be the kinda clunky controls. And I think this really is more of a personal preference thing than like objective truth, but I personally find the control scheme of scrolling around the environment detached from your character to be a bit unintuitive. How it works is that when you load into a new area, Tsuki is placed somewhere on the screen doing some kind of chill, time-killing activity, usually based around one of the first choices that you're given in the game, whether you want to be a reader or an artist. But then, when you interact with something like, for instance, you want to go fishing, Tsuki then snaps to that spot and does the canned animation based around what you're doing. It's not a bad mechanic, but I think for me, coming from a non-mobile gaming world, it feels a bit disjointed, and I'm more accustomed to interacting with things around the world with my character and not my pointer, or in this case, my finger. But again, I don't think that means it's bad, it's just something I'm not used to, and that's totally fine. I didn't find it to get in the way of my enjoyment of the game at all. Overall, this is a really strong entry on the list. The monetization is super low-key, and I love the way they integrate it with this little door-to-door salesman who comes by, and you can either decide whether you want to hear him out, or if you want to slam the proverbial door in his face and not be served an ad. And the microtransactions aren't egregious either. I do think that it takes a bit too long to gain carrots. You need to wait 2 hours before the next crop is ready, and prices on furniture really do incentivize making that happen quicker. And I don't love that the ability to expand your farm to increase your yield is locked behind a $14 DLC. But outside of that, I think this game does a good job allowing you to simply play in short sessions and not making you feel required to buy their microtransactions. Overall though, I think this is a great little cozy game, and the perfect game to wrap this video on a bit of a more positive note. I want to make it clear that while I was pretty hard on these games, and I was certainly more negative in this video than I generally like to be, I don't think mobile games are worse, or that you're any less of a gamer if you play them. Now, I know that is generally the prevailing narrative, and if I'm honest, I don't find much motivation to play mobile games, but I've seen in the comments that a lot of you do, so I thought it would be a valuable thing to do to make this video focusing on something I don't generally experience. I hope your takeaway from this video isn't that I hate mobile games and mobile gamers, because I definitely don't. I think they can be done really well, and I think cozy games in particular have real potential to do well in that space. I just think the developers and publishers, and let's be honest, mostly the publishers, need to be more ready to give up the more predatory practices that are so rampant in the mobile game space. Not only because it's a good thing to do, but also because it'll make the games themselves better as a whole. But that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please do leave your thoughts about all of this in the comments. I always love to hear from you. Other than that though, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another video. I hope you have a great day, and as always, happy gaming. No matter what platform you're on.